What's the most significant you messed with the wrong person moment you've experienced? Back in college, I worked overnights at this gas station right off the highway. It was a sketchy little place. Fluorescent lights buzzing, the coffee was always burnt, and the lotto machine broke at least once a week. I was just trying to survive midterms and keep the lights on. But every Thursday at 3 a.m., like clockwork, a guy named Glenn would roll in. Glenn was this quiet, wiry guy in a mechanic's jumpsuit. Always smelled like motor oil and cigarettes. He'd grab a black coffee and a Snickers, pay an exact change, then leave. Never more than 2 words. Morning and thanks. Looked like he hadn't smiled in 20 years. Honestly, he creeped me out a bit at first, but he never caused trouble. One time I asked if he worked nights. He just said, nah, can't sleep in silence. That was it. But here's where it gets real. It was finals week, snowing sideways, and I was half asleep behind the counter. That night, 2 dudes came in, loud, drunk, reeking of weed and cheap whiskey. They were wearing fraternity jackets, so I already knew the type. Rich, bored, and used to getting away with crap. They started grabbing energy drinks and chips, knocking stuff over and laughing like it was a frat house. I told them, hey, just don't break anything, but they ignored me. One of them, this big dude with a mullet and a chin-strap beard, swear to God, comes up and starts messing with the hot dog roller, licking the tongs, poking the dogs. It was disgusting. I say, all right, you need to go. I'm not cleaning up your mess. He laughs and goes, or what? You gonna call your little janitor friend? He nods toward the door. That's when I see Glenn had just walked in. He didn't say anything, just poured his coffee like usual. But the frat guy sees him and says, yo, grease monkey, you changing diapers now? And I froze. I expected Glenn to walk out. He always avoided eye contact, but this time he didn't. Glenn turns, slow, and looks at them like they were insects. Not angry, just tired. He takes 1 step forward and sets his coffee on the counter. Mullet guy walks up to him, real cocky, and pokes him in the chest. What's a crusty old tool like you gonna do, huh? The next 2 seconds felt like slow motion. Glenn didn't swing. He didn't yell. He did something weird. He stepped to the left, grabbed the guy's wrist, twisted it behind his back so fast the guy dropped to 1 knee like a prayer. Before I could even react, Glenn was behind him with 1 arm around his neck and whispered, you ever put your hands on someone like that again? I'll teach your bones a new language. The guy was making this choking noise, flailing like a fish. His buddy tried to jump in, but Glenn kicked a broom at his feet. It tripped him just enough for Glenn to shove the first guy face first into a display of windshield wiper fluid. Bottles exploded everywhere. Then Glenn calmly stepped back, adjusted his sleeve, picked up his coffee like nothing happened, and said, that'll be all. The 2 guys scrambled out like raccoons caught in a trash can. I stood there stunned. I go, dude, what just happened? He sips his coffee, shrugs, and says, Marine recon, old habits. I go, you're military? He nods. Was. Got out when I stopped believing in flags. But bullies? I still believe in dealing with those. Next week, he came in. Same time. Snickers, black coffee. I had a hot breakfast sandwich waiting for him on the house. And after that night, I never judged a quiet guy again. Couple months later, I'm closing up when this cop comes in for coffee. I mention the frat incident, and he goes, you said Glenn? Short guy, gray jumpsuit. I nod. Cop chuckles and says, you know he used to train our SWAT guys? Took down 3 recruits in 5 seconds with a coffee stir stick. I was like, you're kidding. He goes, nope. Calls it pressure point acupuncture. Freaking legend. After that, Glenn became kind of an urban myth around the store. The guy who handled 3 drunks with a stare and a wrist lock. Every night he came in, I made sure I had his stuff ready. Never paid full price again. One time, a new guy was working the register and tried to charge him double by accident. Glenn just gave him this look, not even mean, and the dude refunded him so fast he almost broke the till. He wasn't violent. He didn't look for trouble. But he had this way of commanding a room without saying more than 10 words. A presence you only get after surviving some real darkness. I asked him once what he did in the Marines. He looked at me for a long moment and said, mostly things I wouldn't do again. I never asked again. Eventually, he stopped coming. No goodbye, no warning, just gone. Some say he moved to the mountains. Others said he died. But part of me thinks he's still out there, roaming gas stations at 3 a.m., looking for peace. Or maybe just looking to finish his coffee. Either way, I learned some.